dedicated to each and every one of you who appreciate a great glass of wine. You know what I mean?
It's Monday. Let's raise a glass to the beginning of another week. It's time to unscrew, uncork, or saber a bottle. And let's begin exploring the wine glass. Today, we return to Winephabet Street, where the letter of the day is X, and it stands for Xarel.lo. When we decided that this month's episode was going to be about the Spanish grape variety Xarel.lo, I immediately knew who to reach out to in order to get the most information possible. Rick Fisher, Spanish Programs Director for the Wine Scholar Guild. He not only graciously agreed to come onto the show, but secured a Xarel.lo grower and winemaker, Ignasi Segui, from Vinyes Singulars. Xarel.lo is one of the three main grapes in Cava, but it can be found as a single varietal and in multiple expressions. By sheer dumb luck, each of us had a different expression of Xarel.lo. Debbie had Cava, I had a still, Rick had an orange wine, and Ignasi had a late harvest, which made us all jealous. The hour went fast, and we learned so much. I know this episode is going to be a top-rated one. Enjoy! Slancha! Hey everybody, I'm Lori Budd, a UC Davis winemaking program, someday service, champagne specialist, and WSET Level 2 graduate. You can find Exploring the Wine Glass on all the socials, as well as your favorite podcast catchers. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to swipe, subscribe, rate, and review. I promise I'll never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass.
Hey!
We are live. Welcome to another episode of Winephabet Street. It is so difficult to believe that we are in our second season and we are up to the letter X already. And we have a special episode for everybody today. We are talking Xarel.lo. And I'm so excited because I know this much about it. And other than the fact that it's found in Cava, but we are going to talk about the whole range that Xarel.lo can offer people in the glass. And we have two special guests with us, and I'm going to give them a brief second to introduce themselves. So Rick, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Rick Fisher. I am the Spanish Programs Director for the Wine Scholar Guild.
Okay. And we have Ignasi, who thankfully and graciously is up at 9 o'clock at night to join us. So Ignasi, how about you give a little introduction?
Then my name is Ignasi Segui. I am a vine grower and winemaker in the Penedès wine region. That's placed close to Barcelona, in the south of Barcelona, in the middle of the Cava region.
And where Xarel.lo is home, right? That is the home of Xarel.lo. Okay. And Deb, how about you?
And I'm Debbie Giaquindo. I'm known as the Hudson Valley Wine Goddess. I'm a wine blogger, wine writer. I just lost my train of thought. I'm an author of Tapping the Hudson Valley, and I'm a restaurateur and own a restaurant in North Wildwood, New Jersey, called Trio North Wildwood. And I probably forgot something out, but it probably isn't important.
And I am your co-host, Lori. My husband and I own Dracaena Wines in Paso Robles, where we specialize in Cabernet Franc. I am also a wine writer under Exploring the Wine Glass. And we are excited to be here. And we're going to get right into the interview and tasting as soon as we hear from Elmo. Hi. All right.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. We think that both Debbie and I agree that wine should be easy for people to enjoy, lighthearted, no snobbiness, just fun, get down to it. And kind of Elmo kind of has that opinion also. So there we go. So we are here to talk about Xarel.lo. Okay. So the first thing that we usually always ask is just the background, how the person who we're interviewing got into the wine industry. So Rick, if you want to go first and just give us a little background about yourself, how you fell in love with wine, and really, I mean, you are specialized into Spanish wine. So how did that love and background come together?
So I'm in my fourth career at this point. My love for Spanish wine really kind of came about 15 years ago. My grandfather is from Barcelona, and so I am actually part Catalan. And I was writing a blog while I was working as a corporate banker. And so I know I'm throwing all these things out and everybody's going, oh my gosh. But yeah, so I was a banker for 20 years. And about 3.5 years ago, I got the opportunity with the Wine Scholar Guild to create the Spanish Wine Scholar program, the study and certification program. And so I left my banking career and went to work full time in the wine business. And now I can say that I actually am living my dream, and the passion for Spanish wine continues to grow every day. I get to talk about it and throughout my travels around Spain.
And we are grateful for that, because when we started talking about a Spanish grape variety, I knew where to go. I went right to you. And Ignasi, how about you? How did you get into the wine game?
My family has been working and vine growing on the same place that me from 1405. I'm the 23rd generation vine growing. And we...
Whoa. We need to backtrack and repeat that.
Yes, more than 600 years, my family has been vine growing on the same place, on the same vineyards. And
that's incredible. That really is absolutely incredible.
And looks like young, but yes. We have a long tradition on vine growing, and I think that in my DNA we have Xarel.lo inside, no? And especially on the region, we fell in love with the passion of our family working there, and this is the reason why I decided to continue the tradition, to work the vineyards and start winemaking, because we start bottling winemaking in 2010. Because before, my family has been selling the grapes and selling wine, but not bottled. Yeah? They were selling. And from 2010, I arrived to the state, and my father stopped vine growing, and I started vine growing, and I decided to start winemaking with the plots that we have.
So do you still sell your grapes as well?
We are managing 30 hectares of vineyard. And we are using 12 for us, and we are selling grapes to other wineries yet.
Mm-hmm.
That is so amazing, because for us to hear a fourth generation is such a big deal. So that is the oldest I've heard of generations that are just involved in the wine world. It is mind-blowing and phenomenal. So I'm honored to have you here and to share your knowledge and experiences with us.
And it's pretty amazing, the same plot of land, family, and just the history. You can't get that anywhere. I mean, such rich history.
And Rick, thank you so much, because you're the person who made this connection. So thank you for getting this for us.
You're welcome.
So let's get into Xarel.lo. So first, we want to make sure that everybody knows how to pronounce it, because it is also a unique spelling, right? We see it a couple of different ways. We see it Xarel.lo, Xarel-lo, and then just no dot or hyphen. Right. So what is the correct spelling? What is the correct way to say it? I don't know who wants to answer that one, but
Ignasi, since you're the Catalan, why don't you tell everybody the exact pronunciation, and I'll talk about the spelling part of it.
Sí. In Spanish is Xarel.lo in Spanish. In Catalan is Xarel.lo. It's quite similar, but finish in O or in U is the big difference between in Catalan and Spanish, but it's the same.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing about the way that it's spelled, because one of the things that I came across when I was researching Spanish Wine Scholar was just this exact question that you asked. And apparently in Catalan, there is a raised dot that doesn't exist on most of our keyboards. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually like it kind of sits a little bit lower than center. And so what ends up happening is you've typically seen the dot, like a period in the spelling, the same thing, or the dash. I've also seen it without either. And so, a lot of times in the legal documents for some of the Catalan DOs that use this grape, you will see it multiple ways. Sometimes they will do multiple spellings just so that people, there's no question as to what it is.
All right. So that does make sense. That's why there's a hyphen in some things, because that would be where that hyphen is pretty much where that raised.
The dot. Exactly.
The dot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. We use the dot between two L's just to pronunciate the L longer. Xarel.lo.
Okay.
Ah.
When the L is longer, we usually use the L.L. But it's just to identify that this L sounds longer than another one.
It kind of just like rolls off your tongue.
Well, the other thing too is if you think about it in Spanish, two L's together are a Y sound. And so it does force you to realize that it's a harder L, Xarel.lo, versus Xarel.lo. And so that would be another reason why you see that distinction like that.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that, but that's true. The double L is a whole different pronunciation.
Nothing like starting out a webinar or a podcast with an etymology, lesson.
But I'm sure so many people, including myself, and I look at that, I said right off the bat, I know I'm not pronouncing this right. How do you pronounce it? Because I would say Xarel.lo, not Xarel.lo.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I reached out to you, Rick, and I put the dot, the period, and when you wrote back, I think you did the hyphen or reversed it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I spelled it wrong. And I'm asking you now. So it was good to know that it's kind of accepted all three ways, but now we have a reason for it. So I like it.
In the word Xarel.lo, there's a famous sentence about a writer, during an important wedding here in Catalonia. There was a periodista. I don't know
a reporter.
A reporter that was explaining the wedding, and she says, and for the dinner they are gonna drink wine, a Cava with Macabeo, Parellada, and Xarel 10. Because in Spanish doesn't exist L.L, and he said Xarel 10, no? like Chanel.
I love it.
That's awesome. Now, before we get into the actual, really get down into learning more about Xarel.lo, it is time to drink. I'm sorry. It's time to drink. So if we can just raise a glass, and the first thing I want to show is the difference between all four of our Xarel.los, and then maybe we could go a little bit into the wines we have. So I have a still. Debbie, you have?
I have a Cava. I have Campo Viejo Cava, which is 40% Xarel.lo.
Okay. And mine is Morania's 2019. Stella Creato, which Ignasi knew what it was, so he can talk more about this wine than I can. But I want to show how light it is, okay? Because now Rick has...
I have an orange wine from La Bestia, which is from Alella, which is one of Spain's smallest wine regions. It's just north of Barcelona. And it's in Catalonia, they also call these brisats, which is the term for orange wine.
Mm-hmm. And I have a sweet wine from Vinyes Singulars, my winery. It's a sweet wine of the light harvest, natural sweet wine. We made the harvest on December of 2019, and it's a sweet wine.
Awesome. So
Wow.
let's raise a glass.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Salud.
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 Salud. Where is Xarel.lo mostly found? Is it found just in one region, all over Spain, or and does anybody outside of Spain grow the grape?
So, and this is actually, it's funny when you're trying to research where grapes are and everything, it is never easy. The data is either virtually non-existent, or, you know, sometimes it conflicts with each other. But from what I could find, there's about 9,000 hectares of, now this is a few years old. And so as Xarel.lo continues to grow, especially in the Penedès region, those numbers might be a little bit higher, but about 9,000 hectares, and 99% of the grape is grown in Catalonia. It is truly a Catalan grape. When I was doing my research, I did find that there are possibly minuscule plantings of the grape in France and in Chile. But in France, they showed, I think this was from Wine Grapes from Jancis, and it was like 0.1 hectare in France. So, I mean, and that, you know, that's always, again, that data is a few years old. So they could have been grubbed up at this point and they're gone. But, you know, truly it is a Catalan grape, and that's where it thrives.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so since we're talking about Catalonia, can you tell us where? So somebody who doesn't really know the geography of Spain, like where is it located, and then like what is the climate there? Like how does somebody get there? Give us the lowdown on it.
So it's actually, I mean, Catalonia, I think, you know, if you look at Spain, Catalonia is the northeastern kind of triangle of Spain, and super easy to get to. You fly into Barcelona. The regions that we're talking about right now are basically the region that's just north of Barcelona, and then the region that's just south of Barcelona. So to get there, it's actually not difficult. Alella is about 30-minute drive from Barcelona, and the Penedès and Cava regions are about 45 minutes on the train, Ignasi, from Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so actually quite easy to get to. Climatically, along the coast, you know, more or less, it's mostly Mediterranean. In some of the areas, though, in Catalonia, when you move in a little bit, they can get a little continental, and even in Penedès, you can, as you go into the more inland areas, you get some hints of continental climate, but for the most part, it is predominantly a Mediterranean climate.
And then, Ignasi, on your vineyard site, like what are the soils like?
In the Penedès Rhine region, the soils are. Penedès is a big valley, and the clay is there. We have a lot of clay there, especially in the region where we are. No, but there are some other places with a little bit of limestone, but it's basically clay. Deep soils, but that don't. If it rains a lot, the water runs. No.
Okay.
But it's mostly calcareous and clay. Calcareous and clay.
And that's so if Xarel.lo is the home there in Penedès, then that's really what it likes. That's the soil it grows the best in. That's what it's craving. That type of climate.
Yes, well, Penedès, Xarel.lo grows in different parts of Penedès, because Penedès has some different zones, because Penedès goes from the sea to arrives to 30 kilometers inside, 40 kilometers inside, and goes from the 20 minutes from Barcelona, 1 hour far away from Barcelona. It's a quite big region with 30,000 hectares of vineyard, about 26,000 hectares of vineyard. And it means that we have the sea. There's the small mountains between the center zone of Penedès. There's the center and surrounded by mountains too. But the Xarel.lo grows mostly in the part where we are, from the part where we are to the sea, not more inside.
Yeah, I read somewhere it doesn't won't grow well in elevation. It prefers, I guess, like a valley floor rather than up high.
I think that grows. Xarel.lo is a we have no problems growing the Xarel.lo.
Okay.
Xarel.lo grows everywhere, but the tradition of the region makes that Macabeo is mostly placed in a zone, and Xarel.lo a little bit higher, and Parellada higher than the other ones. No, but
Okay.
I think that's more a tradition that situation that doesn't allow the Xarel.lo grows in a high altitude. In fact, Penedès, we go from 0 meters up to the sea to 600, but we are mostly at 200 meters. The big zone is at 200 meters. Right.
And is there any disease pressure that you have to worry about on the vines?
In our region, it depends. Before every year now we have a new problem with the climate change and everything, because on the last 10 years we will have a dry seasons, very rainy, and then mildew and oidium and mildew, but not a lot. But we are not allowed to. We don't use to have big pressure with the mildew, especially with the mildew. And the last 3-4 years we suffer a lot for the mildew.
Really?
But it's quite resistant. No, doesn't give us a lot of problems with the diseases.
So going on the mildew that usually isn't there, but unfortunately is now an issue, are the grape clusters tight?
Xarel.lo doesn't suffer a lot the mildew. Last year, yes, 2020, most of the people lost everything, no, because the pressure was very big. But Xarel.lo is a grape that suffers a lot the pressure of mildew. If you compare with Macabeo, if you compare with Malvasia de Sitges, with Fumoy, Xarel.lo is more resistant. It's well adapted to the dry climates too. Is better adapted than other ones, no? Like I told you, like the Macabeo especially. And then is well adapted to the region, at the climate that we have. The rain average that we have on the region is 500 millimeters, average 500, 550. But last year, from October to August, rains just 220 millimeters. And from 15 August to 15 September, rains 250 during the harvest, no? The same in 1 month and during all the year.
Wow.
And we are discovering how to manage every season, no?
I think everybody does, because the weather is so changing and it influences, on when you pick the grapes. Do you pick them early? If there's a storm coming in and you're going to, especially at harvest. So speaking of harvesting the grape, is it like early to bud? Is it late to, when do you typically see the bud on it? And then when do you typically would harvest it?
The vegetative cycle of Xarel.lo starts about 20 of April, 15-20 of April. And the harvest is 4.5 months later.
Okay.
About. It means that, for example, this year, I think that started growing the leaves, the small leaves, in 12th of April. And we started the harvest of Xarel.lo for wine, because as you know, if you do the harvest for Cava, you do it earlier. But for wine, we made it about 10 of September.
And if you were to make a Cava with it, how much earlier, just to show people that it would be picked at?
2 weeks before.
2 weeks? Okay.
2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks before for Cava. Is the unique difference is the grape, the the alcohol, the degree probably of alcohol that you need to make a cava, or that you need to make a still wine. That is the big difference. And depending on the hot, and depending on the rain, or depending on everything, this sugar grows faster or lower in the grape. Then, but perhaps in my state, the difference when we pick the grapes for cava and for wine is 2 weeks.
Okay.
And since Debbie mentioned Cava, Rick, can you tell us a little bit more? So Xarel.lo is actually one of 3 grape varieties that are allowed or that are typically used in Cava. Can you talk about its production in Cava, and then a little bit about the other grapes and what Cava actually is?
Yeah, sure. So Xarel.lo is one of the 3 indigenous white grapes that are used in the production of Cava. And Cava is made the same way that champagne is. It's made in the traditional method with the second fermentation in the bottle. So by any comparison, Cava is more like champagne than it is like Prosecco, because Prosecco is made in the tank method, and but everything here happens within the same bottle. And so much like champagne, you have different aging regimes. And for example, Cava in particular, very basic Cava requires 9 months of aging. And then you do have other levels. There's a new classification system right now in Cava, which is also kind of kicking up the aging. So you'll have a Reserva at 18 months, you'll have a Gran Reserva at 30 months, and then you'll have a Paraje Calificado at 36 months. And so this is, so that's where you see a lot of that similar. Now, a lot of these producers will age quite a bit longer than that. One of the benefits of Xarel.lo and Macabeo both is that they both help promote aging. They're both good age-worthy grapes. And so the other 2 grapes that are in the traditional Cava blend, which I don't know, Debbie, if you have all 3 in your.
I do have all 3 in mine.
So you have Macabeo, which is the most planted Cava grape. You have Xarel.lo, which is second, and I think you said that one was 40 in yours.
Xarel.lo was 40, and the other 2 are 30.
Parellada, which is the least planted of the 3 Cava groups. They also are authorized to put Chardonnay in as well as Malvasia, but that one's very, very minor in there. But really, truly, Cava is a combination of typically 2 to 3 of those indigenous grapes.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be all 3.
No, it does not. It's the tradition. I mean, they're the 3 indigenous grapes. When Cava was first created, and back in the 1870s, it was actually made using French grapes. And it wasn't until 1888 when the first true Cava made from indigenous grapes was actually created in Spain, in Catalonia.
Awesome. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting. Because I do see some Cavs that are also produced with other grapes as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where you could have some Chardonnay, you could have some Malvasia. Then you have the rosé Cavas, where you have 4 red grapes that are authorized to produce in there as well. And so one of the benefits of Xarel.lo in the blend is that it does add some ageability, it adds freshness, it adds body, there's acidity to it. And it's one of the reasons why it's such an incredibly versatile grape. I can honestly say I have never seen Parellada done in a sweet, a sparkling, a white, and an orange wine, Macabeo, I would say people have tried it, I'm sure, because it is the most planted grape. But Xarel.lo really adds so much to the Cava blend.
Do we know the parents of?
I'm blown away that by complete chance, because it wasn't planned.
No.
We have 4 people on the podcast, and we have 4 different expressions of the same grape, and so I can't wait to go dive into that a little bit more. But go ahead, Deb.
You totally lost my train of thought.
I got your question, Debbie. It is the parents.
Yes, the parents. That's right. Was the genetics.
And I love it's funny because going through and researching this particular question, because I'm always fascinated as to how grapes become grape, who they are. And so the male progenitor grape is a grape called Brustiano Faux. It is a French grape that is no longer around. And the female progenitor grape is a Spanish grape called Jerez, which is also Gibi from North Africa, but it is in Andalusia. It is a huge Spanish table grape. What's even more fascinating was these same two grapes are the parents of also Macabeo. So two parents of the same two grapes created Xarel.lo, and the same two created Macabeo. And all I could think of was like, my sister and I have the same parents and we're completely different people. And how did that happen?
Exactly. How does that happen?
I don't know. It's absolutely fascinating how like certain genetics within a vine will, I'm assuming will, I am by no stretch of the imagination, a viticulture, so I or a DNA analyst when it comes to this. But I thought it was fascinating that those two grapes, and also, so the Andalusian table grape is also the one of the parent grapes of Airén, which is the most planted grape in Spain, also a white grape that's predominantly used for brandy, as well as Pedro Jimenez.
Wow. And all natural crossings. All natural crossings.
As far as I know, yes.
Wow.
I wonder if the field where they crossed and made Mancebo, I probably can pronounce
Macabeo.
I wonder if the soils and elevation had anything to do with it.
It could.
That might be. Maybe we do that for season 3. Yeah, we research that.
So again, microbiologist, a lot of genetics in my undergrad work. Like my brain is going Punnett square, and what is a dominant gene and what's a recessive gene in the grapes, and just how that works. Like there's got to be recessive traits within both of those vines, where in one situation it crossed and it happened. And then in the other situation, the two recessive genes came together. Or just like we can have, and I hate to relate it to this, but it's the easiest way to say it, just how humans can have birth defects because of a spontaneous mutation during the conception, basically, where the DNA just mutates a little. It just mutated, spontaneously at that time. So, my science brain is going. Oh.
I just thought it was fascinating, though. The more I started researching it, the more I kept digging. You
go down these rabbit holes.
I know. I knew the answer already, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. So,
I wonder, are you aware of any other situation where that has occurred? Where, we have lots of grape varieties that are, like Cab Franc is the parent of a lot, of several different grape varieties, but it's different. It's got a different mate. Are you aware of any other situation where we have the same two parents for a different?
I'm not, but I haven't done a lot of research, to be fair. I'm sure if it's happened once, it's very likely happened again. But I'm not. I don't know.
And you've heard it first on Winephabet Street.
Exactly. So moving forward with that same type of thing. So Xarel.lo supposedly, I had read, has health benefits. And what does it have that the other grape varieties don't?
So, I won't say that other grape varieties don't have it, but these are two of the things that are actually quite positive. Is number one, it has thick skins, and the skins are high in polyphenols. And so, these are the types of things that are help to boost your digestion. They're supposedly good for brain health, which I'm like, drink more. This is good for my brain. And then it's also very high in the antioxidant resveratrol.
Interesting.
And so, this is something that helps to lower blood pressure. It can have a positive effect on cholesterol levels. And
it's a white skin grape. It's a white skin grape.
Yeah, it is a white skin grape, but there is also, interestingly enough, and I don't know, Ignasi, if you work with this or not, there is also a pink-skinned version of this grape called Xarel.lo Rosado.
Red Xarel.lo in here. We say red Xarel is pink, but it's pink. The skin color is pink, and it's very difficult to get a pink wine with this grape. Some years we get it, but not always. I don't know why, but not always. It depends on the season, depends on the grapes, but every season is different.
And it's really super small production. The other thing I want to point out too, because a lot of times if people are looking at bottles and reading grapes, we're talking about Xarel.lo, and this is the way that they refer to the grape in Penedès. But for example, in the wine I'm drinking, this is from Alea, from the region north, and they refer to Xarel.lo, the clone of Xarel.lo that they use, as Panza Blanca. And so it's the same, they may be a clone of each other, but they are synonyms for each other. And then that pink skin grape that we're talking about, they also call it Panza Rosada. So they have their own, nomenclature for the same grape. So if you do happen to look and see Panza Blanca, it's also referred to as Panza in places like Montsant and Priorat. And even in the Dio Catalunya, the larger Dio, it's referred to as Cartoicha. So it's got a lot of names, but traditionally, especially when you see, these grapes in the wines in the U.S., you typically see them as Xarel.lo or Panza Blanca.
Cartoixa is mostly used in the south of Penedès wine region, in Tarragona province, but is most used there. Because in fact, yes, Xarel.lo, you can find Xarel.lo in all the Catalunya, but more than 90% is in the Penedès and all the surroundings of Penedès. In the north of Barcelona, in Alella, there are a little, but just a little, because there are a few vineyards there, not a lot. And there are some like Xarel.lo too in Balearic Islands too. The name is Premsal también. Is as Rick explained it, is a nomenclature name, but it's quite similar. The difference is the climate and the water, and especially the climate.
And the soils are also different, especially when you're looking at the Balearic Islands, because the Balearic Islands are predominantly limestone with a subsoil. And on Mallorca, for example, you might have these huge rocks in the western part, and on the eastern part, you have this red clay. So yeah, but to Ignasi's point, I mean, and to be fair, the Balearic Islands, you used to be, kind of Catalan territory at one point in time anyway. So it truly is a grape that's kind of found its way around its own region.
Shall we share what Tiffany has mentioned here in the chat about Cava grapes? She wrote that Fregenet has a winery in the Quartera region.
Querétaro.
Yeah, and they grow Cava grapes, so they must grow the three grapes.
Interesting.
So,
well, the thing is they can't technically call it Cava if it's in Mexico, because Cava is a protected DO. But I would be very curious to know, what they're growing there, because these. It's interesting when you see these grapes, because Fregenet, I'm trying to think, there are a couple of Spanish Cava producers that actually have wineries in California. And so it's, they're making sparkling wines, in the same method. But
right.
And Tiffany just confirmed, she's like, yes, they don't call it Cava, they just call it sparkling wine.
Sparkling wine.
So Ignasi, going back to like geeking out a bit, the grapevines, when you're maintaining your vines, like, is Xarel.lo a vigorous grape? Like, do you have to worry about the balance of vegetative versus reproductive? Do you need to do green drop? Or is it kind of an easy you talked about it, the disease resistance aspect of it, but what about its just growth aspect? What are you looking for to be a healthy vine?
See, but we are doing everything you say. The green harvest with the green pruning. We do everything because I think that's the best way to get the best grape you need to make wine. No, but Xarel.lo doesn't need it. That doesn't need that you take the leaves because the humidity doesn't affect a lot. The skin is quite resistant to everything, and you don't have a big problem with the diseases. But depending on the way you manage the plots, you can get a quite big production. Not such big as Macabeo. Macabeo is bigger production than the Xarel.lo, but Xarel.lo is quite, depending on the managing you are making. On the conventional farming, you can get Xarel.lo. We don't get a lot because we are working on the regenerative agriculture. Regenerative is quite different type of farming, and we are producing 2,000, 3,000 kilos hectare. But our neighbors are producing 12, 15,000 kilos hectare, but we are working in another way. Then I don't know. What I see is that they produce a lot of grape, not me.
So that goes to show that it can be a workhorse. And that's probably why we can see it in so many different expressions, is that winemakers, farmers like you who are picking it and choosing the best qualities of it to produce a single variety or the late harvest or something like that. And then I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it's going into a Cava or it's going into a larger blend, you're not so necessarily concerned about that excellent quality because it's being blended. Am I on the right track? Wrong track?
No.
I mean, I would probably say, I mean, there's definitely a lot of truth to that, Lori, for sure. But I think when you start to look at some of the really top producers, that doesn't become as much of a concern. They're more concerned about the quality of every grape that goes in because it's a reflection of the wine that they're producing. But to your point, and like Ignasi said, Macabeo is also a productive grape. So you get, that's why you see a lot of Cava that is mass produced. So, but they're not controlling yields. They're not, dropping green berries, they're not doing any of that kind of stuff. So,
now that we have, 4 different types of wine made by this one grape. I mean, we usually talk about like food pairings and things, but I think we really need to talk about each of our wines. I mean, because they're all so different.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, everybody I'm sure has had a Cava. So I'll go last because I think the 3 of you are your wines, are so different and,
So I'll go first because probably if we're following that concept, Ignasi, I think yours is the most unique because it's the late harvest. And then I think, Rick, yours is more special. Not that this isn't special, but yours is more special because it's an orange wine. So it's a different process. But I have a still wine. And in all honesty, I don't know very much about this. Ignasi, you had recognized the label, so maybe you can talk about the wine itself. I had never had a varietal Xarel.lo, so it's interesting, and I'm kind of a little baffled to describe it because it's multidimensional going on here. The aromas are kind of a stone fruit, but I kind of expected, and then Rick, you alluded to, like, I kind of expected a higher acid wine, but this isn't to me a high acid, and it kind of has a more Riesling concept to me than what I had in my head. And I don't know where I got anything in my head prior to drinking it, but it's more along, like there's like I'm almost a petrol to it. And I wasn't expecting that. So either one of you can tell me if I'm out of my mind or if that is typical or
It's not usual, the petrol flavor to the Xarel is unusual. I'm managing more than 20 plots of Xarel, of 20 plots of different, and every plot is different. I have one, I'm making 8 or 9 different wines with Xarel. Sparklings and still wines, and all are different. This is the reason why I make the 9 different wines, because all are different and the ripeness is different and everything is different. And I have one that the flavor is like a Riesling, like I told you, like petrol, like hydrocarburos. You can smell it, but it's very unusual to find it. I don't know this one because I tasted a long time ago. The first harvest of this wine, I didn't repeat it because I had the possibility to retaste, but it's possible, but it's unusual.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Exploring the Wine Glass is brought to you by Dracaena Wines. Dracaena Wines is an artisan winery located in Paso Robles, California. They have been producing wine since 2013. Their first vintage began with one wine, their classic Cabernet Franc, which received a 91 in Wine Enthusiast. Since then, they have increased production as well as expanded their portfolio, have received many accolades including multiple double gold medals and consistent 90-plus ratings. Visit their website www.dracaenawines.com or use the link in the show notes to schedule a private tasting and to see their entire portfolio. Purchase your award-winning wine and let Dracaena Wines help turn your moments into great memories. It's more like so, and it's also more on the palate. It's more of like a Viognier. It's kind of, it coats the palate more than zings the palate. So, what if somebody, maybe Rick, you can talk about this a little bit more. If somebody is purchasing a bottle of single varietal Xarel.lo, what should they be expecting? Like what, I mean, I know Ignasi just said it comes in different types, but like what we can see here in the United States, what should they expect?
Yeah, I think the wine that you have, Lori, is probably fairly representative of varietal still, stainless steel produced Xarel.lo. And I mean, Xarel.lo does tend to add, remember we talked about the fact that it adds body to that's kind of those Viognier aspects that you're talking about where it's mouth coating. It also tends to have a little bit of a waxy texture to it as well, but it does, from what I've seen, it tends to be in like the medium plus acid, range. So I think that's, which in my opinion makes it a quite versatile wine for food. I mean, I think about Thanksgiving coming up, and I think that, the 4 wines that we have, you could basically run the entire meal on the Thanksgiving table, which I think is super cool. You can't do that with a lot of wines. Okay. And so, because yours is kind of that, obviously you start with Deb's Cava, and then you go into the first courses and you're drinking the one that Lori's drinking, and then the Brisat for more of the turkey and the, those types of things. So it's one of the things I love about this grape is that it's so incredibly versatile.
It is. I'm blown away. It is. So Rick, why don't you talk about your wine itself? Yeah,
sure. So again, I mean, color wise, I'm just, it's fascinating when you pour this. So this is Panza Blanca from Alea. And this was the La Bestia from Alea from Oriol Artigas. And so this is 12 days on the skins, which is quite lengthy for a white wine, and then 10 months on the lees. And so bottled, unfined, unfiltered, the whole thing. So it is like truly brisat, orange wine, natural wine, whatever you want to call them. And so the very first moment that I first opened the bottle and I put my nose in the glass, I got like this apple cider, kind of a note. And then what's ended up happening is it just keeps, evolving. And so it's got really neat saline notes. It's got some stone fruit. There's definitely some lemon, a little bit of like herbal, kind of like garrigue a little bit. And it's really, truly, and it's not for everybody. And I will always admit that orange wines, are always, they take a little time for most people to actually kind of get into, because the first time you taste tannin on a white wine, it always kind of blows your mind a little bit. But for this one here, the tannins are still quite, I would call them medium minus. They're not, it's definitely just more of that textural complexity that you get with this particular wine versus having, a white, an orange wine that has really, massive tannin. Like, some of the wines that I've had from Georgia, I still find it hard sometimes to kind of get through some of those wines, but this one is just absolutely spectacular. It's a beautiful expression of this grape in a very different way.
And now I'm so excited, Ignasi, to hear about your wine. But can you give us a little bit more background on, since you've been making wine, a little bit more about your winery and how is it available in the United States? Because if it is, we want to be able to get our hands on it. And then tell us about your wine.
Okay, then as I told you, my winery is a very small winery. We are just producing between 35 and 40,000 bottles per year. It's placed in the middle of the Peninsular region in our family house in the countryside, and has just 70 square meters. It's very, very small, and we make there 33 different wines. We have all the letters of the alphabet. We have all the letters of the alphabet. No, because we are managing 12 different grapes, all indigenous grapes, and we make a wine from every plot. And we make a sparkling sped nuts, just one fermentation ancestral method. And still wines, white, rosés, claretes, whites macerated with red skins, and too much things.
How are you awake right now?
No, this season is so quiet now. I'm waiting.
Yeah,
I
know, that's what I'm saying. You need to catch up on your sleep right now.
Yeah. No, but now the season is we are waiting to bottle, because now we have a few wine from the available now from the last harvest. And we do what we feel, what we love, and we enjoy doing it. And we make a lot of wines because once a time an old man asked me, okay, how old are you? I was 40, and now I'm 45. No, I was 40, and he told me, okay, then if you are 40, if you are a farmer, you can be working, you can be retired at 70, not more, because you will be totally broken. And he said to me, you just have 30 opportunities on your life to make wine, because you have one opportunity per year. And then I recommend you that make as much wines as you want every year, because if not, you are losing a complete wine, and an opportunity to make it. And this is the reason why we decided to make what we feel. We make a lot of wines. We make field blend wines too, because all the plots that we are planting now are mixed vines, and we pick the grapes all together, and we make the wine. The coupage is a grape coupage that comes from the vineyard, and we make.
That was great advice.
We work in clay amphoras. We work in chestnut barrels, inox, in demijohns. We work.
Wow.
Different style.
Chestnut barrels. That's awesome.
Different style. Yeah, chestnut. We just work with chestnut, big chestnut barrels from 500 to 1,000 liters.
So tell us about what you have in your glass.
Okay, what we have in our glass is is a wine that we just made once a time on 2019. I think that we won't repeat never, because it's very difficult to make it. And because in the region where we are, it's very difficult to make a wine on this way, because usually after the harvest starts raining a lot, and it's not possible to keep the grapes on the plant and get the dry grapes and a little bit of botrytis, no? Usually it's acid botrytis if you left the grapes in the vine, and you can use it. And it's a natural sweet wine. We picked the grapes between November and December of 2019. In every 2 weeks, we went to the vineyard and picked some grapes, and we finished the harvest on 23rd of December. Wow. It's just 9.5 alcohol degrees, 220 grams of sugar that comes from the grape. Is sugar not fermented, and is fermented in inox, and then is aged in a demi-joans of 54 liters. And we bottle when we have an order. We bottle one demi-joan, 100 bottles, and when it's finished, we bottle the other one. And it means that now we just bottled 3, and we have 5 more. It means that we will have wine for for a long time yet.
That's actually brilliant to not bottle the whole thing. When it's a late harvest, it can it can sit there and not really you don't need to bottle everything at the same time. That's actually brilliant.
All at once, yeah. So do you just sell this particular wine out of your winery?
See, I drink a lot of this wine.
Oh, so it's for yourself. we got this now. We got this now. So if you're out of your stock, you bottle more. We got it.
I try to sell some bottles. In USA, I have an importer in Virginia, Richmond, that is representing us in all USA, and now we are selling in Virginia, in DC, and then we are selling in Washington State, in New York, Arizona, and Miami, and that's all. And I think that we sent 24 bottles of this wine to USA. Then good luck. If you wanna find one.
We need that connection.
Yes.
We need to call and say, well, we spoke to Ignasi, and I don't know. He said we can get a bottle.
He said you got 24. What happened to them all? Where'd they all go?
The name of the company is Native Selections. It's placed in Richmond. He's a good friend. This January, he's going to come to visit us. He comes twice a year here to Paredes and stay at home with me. And I usually come to USA once a year to visit him and some customers too.
All right.
Well, if you come to the USA, we can do a wine dinner at our restaurant.
Why not?
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
I love traveling. I love discover new places, meet new people, and for me it's something good. If perhaps the best of winemaking is travel a lot. Is what I try to do. We are selling this year. We sold more than 80% of the production outside Spain.
Oh, that's great!
Wow.
And because we love traveling, and we meet a lot of people everywhere and good friends, and it's what we do. And talking about the wine, I think that Xarel.lo is a good grape to make a sweet wine, because it has a good acidity. That is sometimes a sweet wine with 120 or 220 grams of sugar is heavy, but with acidity of the Xarel.lo that is concentrated, losing the water because it's dry grapes. In this case, keeps the acidity. And then, as we work with no sulfur too, we have a little bit of volatile acidity. It's quite normal in the sweet wines too, in the sweet natural wines. And it's very fresh. Tastes like honey too, but very fresh.
Nice.
All right, so we need to get a hand on one of those 24 bottles.
We do. Maybe someone in New York City has it.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out.
Yes. So I have Campo Viejo Cava, And it's funny. I wish I knew I was going to be drinking this because I was at the Spanish wine tasting last Monday in
Rick was there
the Mercado.
A great match.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I didn't see. I went to the Canary Island seminar.
So did I.
The volcanic. Yeah. How about that? But I was talking with the woman that was there from this winery for a while on a wine dinner issue or idea. Anyway, this is great to start any day or anything with. We're actually having a Bubbles and Birds dinner at our restaurant in a couple weeks, and wine's going to be paired with one of our courses. It's very fresh, got a hint of brioche, maybe some citrus on the nose. It is really lovely. And I have to say, as I've been tasting this during the different stages that we've been on this webinar, I've gotten different flavors. Midway through, I got some grapefruit and some peach. And now the peach is more gone and it's more citrusy as it's been warming up. So I think it's really interesting to see how, a wine changes from coming out of the fridge. So it's been out of the fridge now for just over an hour, in the glass. Definitely more citrus, but it is really, it's, not the acidity is probably maybe medium, but it's really lovely. And it's almost 5 o'clock, so then I can finish the rest of the bottle.
And then just as a reference point, my bottle, thank you, Rick, for finding it for me. Mine was $16. I literally had to pay more for shipping than I paid for the bottle. So that made me buy 2 bottles because it was 10 cents more to ship me 2 bottles than 1 bottle.
I will tell you that mine, my husband, I think, paid $12 or $13 for it, but the SRP is $10.99.
And
so,
Rick, what about the
mine is in the $50 to $55 range.
So again, it shows that you can get this grape variety across the spectrum of expression and wallet.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And
when you think about the 12 days on skins and the lees and all that, it explains why it is a more expensive.
It's also, just so you know, this is bottle number 26 of 2,080 bottles.
Oh, an actual numbered bottle.
I mean, literally, they put it on the back of the.
Very cool. I like when people do that.
Yeah.
So
and the vineyards, if you visit the vineyards that owns Oriol Artigas in Alella, you will understand the price because it's a heroic farming there. Mm. They are working all by hand, no tractors. It's very, very hard to work there, and very old vines. And I think that's the difference. The big difference is about the low production and very hard work there.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we talk about the different food pairings with the grape, but since this grape is produced in here 4 different ways, I mean, we have tons of food that this can be paired with, anywhere from, the beginning of the meal to the end of the meal to dessert. I mean, the sweeter wine would be great with an apple pie.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question, Ignasi. What do you like to eat? What do you like to eat with that? Or are you just enjoying it as the end of the evening?
With this wine?
Yes.
I love this wine with foie, with blue cheese too.
Blue cheese, I can see that. Yep, cheese, yep.
Like the Cava, with cheese, but I never drink this wine with sweet food too because it's too sweet for me.
Too sweet.
I prefer the contrast between sweet and dry. And
so we are at our hour, and we try not to take up too much time of our guests. So, but Ignasi, before we go, can people come visit your winery? Are you open for visitors?
Yes, of course. We have no visitor center, but if you come from USA, all of you are welcome. I have no website. But if you look for me in Instagram, you can send me a message. A lot of the people that contact me comes from Instagram. Vinyes Singulars in Instagram.
Okay.
You can find me, and everybody is welcome at the winery, and we will enjoy some time together there.
I will see you in February,
Okay.
Ignasi. I'm coming to Barcelona for Barcelona Wine Week. So.
Okay, I'll be there. Mhm.
Awesome.
Okay.
And Rick, give me 1 second. I want to put this up. And you can tell us a little bit more about how people can learn more.
I work with the Wine Scholar Guild, and I created a program. Our organization works with the wines of France, Italy, and Spain. And I wrote the program for Spain. It's called Spanish Wine Scholar. And basically what it is, it's an tremendously in-depth course on the wine regions of Spain. We cover every wine region in Spain. The manual itself is over 300 pages. It's really a great reference manual. It's the most in-depth resource on the wines of Spain that you can find. And so I teach the course online through the Wine Scholar Guild. You can find that if you go to Instagram at Wine Scholar Guild, or you can also find it on my Instagram where I am the Spanish wine guy. And so always, and you're welcome. As Ignasi said, if you ever have questions, just feel free to message me and I can get you more information. But if you go to the winescholarguild.org, you will see the next online class starts middle of February, and I'll be teaching that as well. So,
and I did just go to the site, so I'm going to put that link into the chat and be sure to put the information into the post when we post it. And
Ignasi did put his Instagram. Yeah.
And we'll include that also. And Rick, Jean is here, and they're stating that your course is incredible with 2 exclamation points.
Thanks, Jean. Completely unsolicited, everybody else.
Completely unsolicited.
Thank you.
So I would like to thank you both for taking your time out and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And it was wonderful to see you both here. And thank you for sharing all of this with us and our listeners and our blog readers. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys. It's been an incredible hour.
Thank you.
And Rick, I wish I knew you were in New York. I would have loved to meet you.
I did too. I go every year, Deb, so I'll be there.
Okay. I'll see you next year.
All right.
Or if not sooner. Cheers,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yes.
Salud.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right now.
This has been another episode of Exploring the Wine Glass. Thanks for listening. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like me to discuss, please reach out on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Exploring the Wine Glass. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoytbud. Of course, you can always email me at exploringthewineglass@gmail.com. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find me more easily. And most importantly, tell your wine-loving friends, because if you like the podcast, they will too. Music is Wine by Kevens. Until next week, Sláinte.
Why? I want a nice glass right now.